Hi, this is Keith Bryant, the Keith Bryant Show at APEX 2020, and I'm here this morning with a very good friend of mine, David Bennett from the UK. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff and finish up with a very interesting product that he's now involved with, which has the potential to revolutionize the universe. And according to people that know more about it than me, that's not an exaggeration. So, good morning, David.
Good morning, Keith.
You've been known for, I won't say how many years, but we'll just say a lot of years, as the European face of Meertech. You've now moved on and opened a new chapter in your life, so perhaps that's a good starting point as an explanation of where is David Bennett now?
Yes, well, I am still working with Meertech, but not for Meertech. And the way it works now, Keith, basically, is I've taken direct control over everything happening in the UK and Irish market, as well as the Indian market. And I sell the Meertech range there. I support the customers with the engineering teams. So it's pretty much business as usual. It's just the continental part of Europe, which we now have looked after, Meertech has looked after by the team based in Germany.
Okay, so you say business as usual, but Meertech is now just one of your businesses.
Yes, yeah, but it is probably the feature one. It's the flagship. 11 years of experience. My team have been with me all through that time. They're all now, they're very well known in the UK, Philip and Scott, and they're both with Bentech. And so it's the same team that built the business all together again. Yeah.
So still a family business then?
Yes, very much. Although Scott's not actually blood family, he's part of the team. He's definitely family. Yeah.
Okay, so those of us that know a little bit about the background know that effectively you're now gamekeeper turned poacher. So perhaps you'd like to explain a little bit about the business that is known as Bentech.
Yes. Well, basically at Bentech, as I say, the flagship is still the Meertech line. But we do have some other key products. One of the things that we have is a range of products. We're actually going to create something which I've thought about for quite a long time, and that is a specification pool, if you can imagine. So basically the customer can put in his budget that he's looking to spend. He can put in, there'll be an automatic check sheet will come up, and he can put in, if he's looking, for example, for a board loader, he can put in the size he needs, he can put the spec he needs. It'll all come up digitally. When he fills it in, it'll go away to come back, and we will give him a price which is basically door to door. If it's a more advanced product, then what he will get is a price including full training, installation, and everything else. So it's a one-stop shop, and it's a sourcing pool. And at the moment, we've got a lot of products on the site. I've actually started talking to the web guys, and we're going to start pulling a lot of that off, and it will be found under a category in the source pool. So somebody can go in there and say, I'm looking for a selective soda, for example, and instead of me going and saying, this is the best selective soda in the world, they can determine the spec they need, they can determine their budget, and then we might give them a selection of 2 or 3. So it's something a little bit different. The rest of the company is focused on the main lines. Meertech, of course. The second one is going to be a few products which we're developing in the UK in conjunction with partners around the world, and they're actually going to be labelled as Bentech, and they will be our own products supported by our own engineers. And we're looking for strong advantages for those types of products, whether it be high specification, very good margin price for the customer. Then if that's the criteria it can fulfill, and we feel there's a niche available, I'm only really interested in own brand for that sort of thing from now on. But the most exciting thing, and you sort of touched on it a little bit, is an American product, and it's called In Situ Ware. And I'm working with the In Situ Ware on setting up a distribution network that is basically globally except the USA.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this product, and before I saw it, I've had several people describe to me its capability. So before you describe the capability, I will say, I honestly believed it was too good to be true. I'd really like to do some testing and some playing with it and get my hands dirty to be 100% sure. But if it does what it says on the tin, it's pretty much, well, not pretty much, it is completely a revolutionary product. Maybe you could explain from at least the testing of soda paste perspective what it is and how it works.
Basically what it is, it's a real-time feedback sensor for, well, as you said, we'll use soda paste as an example, although there will be many different types of tests. At the moment, the customer can only go by the jar. You know, you get a jar of soda paste, you take it to your paste machine, it says it's within the date to be used by, it's been stored in your materials, hopefully in the right temperature. It's not been left out by the printer for too long, because soda paste will start to change its consistency. And of course, that's where our industry has for many years been saying 70% of all failures come through the paste process.
Yeah. Depending on which expert you talk to, it's between 60 and 90% of all the underlying failures start at the very beginning with the soda paste, or at least the printing process and the stencils and the rest of it.
I mean, the thing is, to be honest, the only way to check materials has always been send it away to a lab. That doesn't really help the production team. You know, if you've just loaded a screen printer and suddenly something happens down the line, your placement machine packs up for a while and has to wait for maintenance to go, that product will start, if it's just sat in the machine, it will start to change. And when it starts to change, it will start then to be a higher possibility, it will create a higher possibility for failure. Because you're going to now start seeing that the paste doesn't spread as well. You're going to start seeing that it's actually changing formulation. Now, there's never been anything in our industry that can do that in 2 minutes. This can. Literally, you can check the paste as you've loaded it. You can make sure that within 2 minutes you know that it's within the specification of the manufacturer. It's ready to go. If now something goes wrong and you're waiting and waiting, that paste is changing. By the minute, it's changing. Unless you've got it back in a cool storage situation, which you haven't, you've got it sat by the printer or on the printer, suddenly there's now a new way where you can say, just check that paste is still okay to use.
Yep. And I have to say, this is a handheld device.
Yes.
So it's not a big piece of lab equipment
Nope.
that you have to take everything to. It's actually something you can take to the printer. But I think it has an individual sensor that you use once and then...
Yeah, the tool itself is called a Vision 1. And the Vision 1 has then on top of it a connector which is dedicated to what type of test you're doing. And we're now sort of moving into the other types of tests as well, so I'll explain that. You will then have a probe. The probe is very much like nearest thing I would guess you could imagine is like a little flat USB stick. So you would take off the cover, just smear a bit of paste on it, shut it, put it in the end of the tip, fire, and within 2 minutes it comes back and tells you this is okay, this is chemically as it should be, or no, it's deteriorating. And it's also linked by SPC, so it's going to be telling you a report, sending you a report, and on that report it would explain, you know, if you had used it, these are the type of issues you would have found. And that's based on years and years of research, all done over here in America.
Okay, so basically I guess it's sending that information somewhere,
Cloud.
pulling it back down, and then being also Industry 4.0 ready to an extent, because you can put that into your management control system, SPC, or whatever you're running.
Yeah.
Do you have to tell it what the manufacturer of the paste is and all the other stuff?
It can identify it. For example, if you say it's ABC 123 and it's an ABC 345, it will actually tell you this is wrong. So if you've got a misload of paste, you've said it's a such and such no clean and it's not, it's just human error, it'll stop you creating a lot of problems.
Yeah,
It'll find
so looking back at the simplistic stuff, if you've loaded a tin lead paste onto your line and it should be lead free, it's going to ring alarm bells very, very quickly.
It would tell you before you even turn the printer on. Well, it would tell you, hopefully, before you've even loaded it onto the screen printer. It would tell you as you open the pot, you do the sample, 2 minutes later you know, oh my God, I've made a mistake, go and get the right paste.
So if you're checking boards that have been printed and things, I guess the next question is what kind of size sample do you need to make the whole thing work?
It's literally, Keith, about a smear of about so big. Put the cover on, put it in the end of the unit, fire. 2 minutes later, it comes back and says, yes, it's okay.
Well, as I said, if you weren't telling me about it, we'd all be going, this is too good to believe.
Yeah.
And I know you have other things in the pipeline that you can test as well. So perhaps we can finish up by you giving us a flavor of
Sure.
not how wonderful this is today, but how even more wonderful it could be tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a sequence of tips that are coming out, probes, sorry, I should use the right terminology, and these probes are able to conduct tests such as the conformal coating, or is there any moisture trapped inside after the curing process, which is of course in any critical type of, cars, planes, health, medical, stuff like that. I mean, those sort of devices, if you're putting in a board which you've conformally coated to protect it and you've got moisture entrapped within that, hasn't been cured properly, this device can find that. It can also look at surface residue. So whether you've cleaned or not cleaned, it will tell you A, if there's any residue, and B, if that is a conductive residue. And of course, we all know what can happen with the wrong conductiveness in the wrong place. That's obviously a nightmare.
Well, Dave, if it does half of what you say it does, you're on to a winner. And if it does all of it, you're on to a very, very big winner, my friend.
Thank you, Keith. I've got to say, I'm pushing on 30 years in this industry, and I've never seen anything so exciting as this.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that one. This is Keith Bryant, closing down the first day of the Keith Bryant Show. I'd like to say thank you to Dave and my other guests and all the team behind the cameras for doing such a sterling job.